Hey Stitch Cutie, this is Brittany with Stitches of Love Quilting, and this is the video tutorial for making your Happiness is zipper bag in the hoop of your embroidery machine. Now the zipper bag is a bonus that is included in your Mug Rug of the Month Club, which means you can either make one mug rug or one zipper bag every month. So we are going to turn our mug rug into a zipper bag in this video tutorial. So what you're going to want to do is first get all of your materials. So let's talk about what we have ready. So you're going to have the front and back materials cut to size. So we have 9 by 9, 9 by 7, and 9 by 3. And again, this cute floral is going to be the lining of our bag. And then the fun print fabric with the words, that's the outside of our bag. We're going to cut those same sizes for our batting as well. Right now we're going to set those aside as we continue to review our materials. You're going to need your zipper. Again, if you're a member of the club where you get your kit, that's included. This is a 14-inch zipper, by the way. And then you're also going to have your binding fabric. You don't need that just yet, so we're going to set both of these aside. And then you have your pre-fused laser cut pieces and 2 buttons. So I like to have a little jar where I can put my pieces. So let's just prep our pieces. First, if you're using the SVG files, then these are already reversed, which means you're going to load your fabric in your home electronic cutter with the fusible side up, right? Because they're reversed, just as if you were tracing on your fabric. If you get the kit, you have everything pre-fused and pre-cut, so you're just going to free them from their little holder. There's about a 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch little snip to do on a straight line, so it's easy to just snip that right out. The green is already cut, and we're just gonna snip the heart for the back and the heart for the front. All right, and you can quickly peel the fusible batting off of these. I'm sorry, not the fusible batting, the backing of your fusible. And you just simply crimp down with the fabric side up, and that white backing releases right away. So we'll do that on our pieces real quick. And again, the little jar keeps them nice and handy for you. So we'll just put that. I'm having some static electricity today. They're sticking to me. So we're going to put all of that in here. So let's talk about our thread colors for this month. Now I always have a white with me. I'm not actually using the white at all this month, but I always like to have it with me in case I need to make another bobbin or something like that. Or you can buy the pre-wound bobbins. So I am using Sulky 40 weight rayon threads. And the colors that I have are this beautiful blue color, 1253. These are 40 weight rayon sulky threads. And then the gold color, goldish yellow color I have is 0567. For the green, we have 1177. And for the pink, we have 1307. What I love about the sulky threads, I didn't have this one popped in, the top of the lid and the bottom of the lid just sort of pops out, and you can wind your thread so it stays nice and tidy. So we'll set our goodies aside. A few other tools I like to use. I have my little snippers that I like. So I usually hold my thread a lot when a stitch begins. It's just sort of a habit. You don't have to on most embroidery machines, and I don't need to on mine, but I do, so I have my snippers. The scissors I just used were my Karen K. Buckley Perfect Scissors, and they really are. They're sharp all the way to the end, and they're serrated. They're absolutely wonderful to cut with. And then I have my Steady Betty in front of me so that I can iron here and not have to go all the way to my ironing board. And then I have my handy dandy steam fast travel iron. It's great for getting in the hoop of the machine, which is great. And let's talk needles for a second. I am so excited that we're carrying these now. Our friends at Sulky started offering these. Before, the only way you could buy Oregon needles as a replacement on your sewing machine or your embroidery machine was in this huge bulk quantity, which as a consumer, that's not great for you. But now they've come up with this amazing packaging, which I like. So you just kind of bend it right there. You can pull your needle out. And this comes in sizes 75 to 90, 11 to 14 are the ones I'm using. I just love them. And can I just tell you one thing right off the bat that I love about them is that because they're colored on the top, when I get it into my sewing machine, you know, when you're pushing it up into the hole for it, you know that you're all the way up because your pink is no longer visible, which to me means so much because I'm always concerned that I don't have that needle all the way up. I'm always scared of hurting my machine. So these are just a few of the tools that I like to use. So quickly, before we get started, make sure you have everything nice and pressed. Especially if it's in a kit, it comes folded, you know, in a box. So make sure you have your pieces pressed and ready to go. There we go. See how nice this irons? Really is good. I love it. All right, so the first pieces that we're gonna work with are gonna be these larger pieces right here because we're gonna make the back of our mug rug, or I'm sorry, of our zipper bag. So let me show you, this is what we're gonna finish with, right? So we have the front with a cute little embroidered, or I'm sorry, this is the outside back of your bag with a cute little heart. And then we have the inside lining of our bag, which is this gorgeous floral. I love this fabric. Okay, so let's set these aside. And so these are the first pieces we're gonna work with. What you're gonna have in the hoop of your machine, first you need to make sure you have a hoop that's large enough to accommodate 8 inches square. So I'm gonna put this in front of us and we're gonna load it with a Tearaway stabilizer. You can use the stabilizer of your choice. I mentioned in the mug rug tutorial that I have a whole bunch of new stabilizers to play with. And I'm very excited to see if I find something I like better. And when I do, I will pass that along to all of you so you can use it too, to try and see if you like it. All right, so just get that in. So what you're gonna want to load in your machine is your royal blue fun color, which is 1253, and you're gonna load the file for the back of your zipper bag, and we'll be back in just a moment to put our pieces in place. After the first step on your machine, you're gonna have this nice square stitched on your stabilizer. So let's talk about what we're gonna do. We're gonna flip it over to reveal the back side of our hoop, and we are going to take the lining fabric and we're gonna place it over this square. Now, I do wanna mention that the lining fabric this month is not directional, but if you're using different fabrics and they are directional, make sure you know the way that the file is oriented in your machine and the way you have your hoop oriented. So this is the top and this is the bottom. So if you have a directional fabric, make sure to orient that the right direction, and you're just gonna wanna make sure that you have your square totally covered. Now this month I'm using my little home office tape, or I'm sorry, the medical tape. I really like using it, however I don't like that it doesn't have a holder, so I'll show you. You guys will laugh at me because what I've done is put it on my home office holder. It doesn't fit, you know, when I use a little bit. Oh no, it'll just never fit right there, but I have the nice little handy dandy tear, which I like. So I am using that, which looks silly, but oh well. I like using it. So you guys use whatever tape you want to use. And I'm just putting a few pieces along the edges. And in just a second, we're gonna flip it over and we're gonna put the front in place. There we go. So we have the lining taped on the back of our hoop. We're gonna flip it over to reveal the front of our hoop. And the first thing we're gonna do is make sure that our piece of batting is free of any stray threads. If you're like me, your workspace has threads everywhere. I typically am covered in threads. Although my trick, I know you probably can't see, but my some of my dresses are like this weird fabric. I don't know what it's called, but it's slick and threads do not stick to that. So I must say, fun trick, wear slick clothes when stitching. And now this is the front. Now this month the fabric is very directional. So again, make sure that you have your hoop oriented and your design oriented and you're aware of that, where the front and the bottom of your design is going to be, so that you get your fabric in the right place. Another thing to think about this month is because it's like horizontal lines, you don't want to accidentally get your piece on there a little crooked, right? Even though it's covering your square, see, your lines would then be crooked. So make sure that you eyeball as best you can and make that straight. Now again, the thread color that we have in our machine is still the blue color. Our machine now is going to do the quilting on this, and it's going to do an outline of the heart so we know where to put our label. So we'll be back in a few minutes to put the cute little heart in place. And just like that, the back of your bag is quilted and you have one heart outlined so that we can iron on that one pre-fused, pre-cut piece. So I'm actually turning my hoop sideways just so it stays in the frame of the video. But I'm going to put my heart right in the outline that was stitched by the machine. And we're just going to use this little bitty iron to iron it in place. Now we're gonna put this back on the arm of our machine, and what you'll load is that beautiful 0567 golden yellow color, and the buttonhole stitch is going to take place over the heart. And now the back of your zipper bag is complete. How beautiful does that look? So we're just gonna take this out of the hoop and set it aside. And now we're going to get ready to do the front of our zipper bag. So what we'll load next is this Tearaway stabilizer into our hoop. So let's just get this right in place. And again, I do have some fun new stabilizers to play with for next time. Hopefully I'll have them. I'll decide before the next month. If not, I'll let you know when I'm ready to share. Because again, I like to test everything before we say, yes, we love it, right? And we're gonna put this on the hoop of our machine. And now we're going to change back to the blue color, which is 1253. And you're gonna load the file for the front of your zipper bag. And you'll start the first step, which is gonna give you an outline that we're gonna work with, which is gonna be a square, and then 2 lines so we know where to place our zipper. Now it's time to place our zipper. So again, you have your square as an outline of where your zipper bag front is going to be built in this hoop. And then the first 2 lines we're going to use are the lines for the zipper. So again, pay special attention to the direction you have the design oriented in your machine. And again, the direction you have your hoop oriented in front of you. So this is the top for me, and then the bottom is down here. So I am going to pay special attention to the direction that I orient my zipper pull. I like my bag to pull from top to bottom. So I'm going to make sure that the top of my zipper is right here and the bottom goes off the bottom. Now you can see the zipper is of course longer than you need, and that's so that you have enough to work with. And we're going to tape this in place right in the center where it goes. So make sure that you line the zipper up in the center. I'm just going to put a little piece of tape right there. Let me get a few more pieces pulled out. And again, you want to make sure that you keep it centered and straight. There we go. Put another piece of tape right down here. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of the zipper. I'm going to put, actually I think I can tear my tape in half and it'll still stick. Make better use of my tape. There we go. So I'm going to put some right there and then a little more right here. Now, one thing I've noticed when I'm using the medical tape versus the home office tape is that I will get a little bit of residue on my needle. So just pay special attention after you stitch something like this and just touch your needle and see if there's any residue. If there is, just simply, you know, wipe it off with your finger. If you had an alcohol pad, you could do that. I don't think you need to go to that extreme. I just use my finger and it comes right off. All right, so let's go on to the next step. So now our zipper is attached. We're going to gently pull off our tape and without ripping our stabilizer. Let me just get this tape off. There we go. And gently pull. I will say I like when I use the smaller piece like this that I used on the left. And we're just gonna pull this up. And I have one more piece to get off. So what we're gonna do now is work on building our right side of the bag, right here. So we're going to start by flipping our hoop over. Well, if I can get the tape off my fingers. There we go. So again, make sure your zipper is laying flat. All your tape is gone. We're gonna flip the hoop over, and now we're going to take the piece of fabric that is for the inside lining of our bag. We're gonna flip it over where it's face down, and we're going to orient it where it is 1/4 inch past this left line of our zipper. So if this is the top and this is the bottom, this is the left, we're gonna go 1/4 inch past that line. See, just 1/4 inch. That's actually a little more than 1/4 inch, but that's no big deal. You have more than enough fabric. So we're gonna tape this right in place. So we're just gonna get a piece of tape down here and another piece of tape right up here. And then for good measure, I'm gonna take a piece and rip it in half and do a little bit right there and a little bit right there. I know every month, sometimes I use more tape, less tape. I guess it just depends on the mood I am in that day. So you guys tape how you're comfortable. Now we're gonna turn it over to the front again, and we're gonna take the piece of fabric that is meant for the right side front, outside of our bag. This is the direction we want it to be, right? So we're gonna immediately flip it over, and I'm doing it that way so that I make sure that I have my words or the directional fabric oriented the right way. We're gonna take this right piece and go 1/4 inch past the right stitched line on my zipper. And again, with this fabric, because it's very directional, it has this horizontal line, I'm gonna eyeball it and make sure that my horizontal lines look straight. And then we're gonna tape this into place. So again, do a little piece right here, another little piece right there. And for good measure, I am gonna do a little on the top and bottom. I usually don't tape down here, but why not? Just do a little there and here. Now, again, we still have that blue thread on our machine. We're gonna put this back on, and the machine is gonna do one straight line, and we'll be back to put the batting in. The one line is stitched, so again, we're gonna turn it over. We're gonna remove the tape that we put on. There we go. Ooh, be careful not to tear your stabilizer. I just did a little bit. Get your tape out of the way. And what you're gonna do is just finger press this to the left like this. And this is now creating the inside lining of your bag. So cool. So again, you're putting your zipper in without ever having to do the work of a zipper. Don't you love that? I never do zippers. I only use zippers in embroidery machine situations. And I know everyone dislikes doing zippers, but when your machine does it for you, it's not hard at all. There we go. So we're gonna flip it over, and we're gonna repeat this step with the front, with one exception, is that we're gonna put the batting in place. So let's remove our tape. Whoop. One more little piece. There we go. So you're gonna get your piece of batting, that's the 9x3. And if you have any like weird threads, you can trim them. It's not gonna show, but just stay tidy, right? You're gonna put this right in place up to that stitched line. And you're gonna flip your fabric over, making sure your batting is going all the way up. And then I'm just gonna give this a press. Normally we use fusible batting, but there's been an issue with the fusible batting. And so we worked with our vendor to pick a different batting for this month, and we really love it. It feels so soft. And to be honest, I haven't really cared that it's fusible or not. This isn't fusible, but you can see the fabric just sort of sticks to it anyway, so it's great. So again, you're gonna keep the blue thread in your machine, or the thread that matches that you want for your quilting, and the machine is going to stitch this into place and then do the quilting right here. Then the same idea that we did on the right side, we're gonna do on the left side after that. And just like magic, the right side of your zipper bag is completely stitched. How great does that look? You love it? Okay, so now the same process that we did on the right, we're gonna do on the left. So let's flip our hoop over, and we're gonna take the fabric that's 9x7, that is the lining piece. We're gonna flip it where it is right side down, wrong side up, and we're going to orient it 1/4 inch past this right zipper line. So just make sure you're at least 1/4 inch. If you're a little more than 1/4 inch, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. And we're going to tape this into place. Now I'm going to leave this taped up for the remainder of the project until we get towards the very end with our finishing steps. And that's because all of the stitching that we're gonna do for the buttonhole stitching and stuff, I want that to be totally covered by my lining. So I'm gonna put 2 pieces here. I'm going to flip it over. Now it just depends on the size of your hoop. If you're gonna have fabric that flips over, it might not. If your hoop is more of a rectangle than a square, this might still be on the back. But nevertheless, I'm gonna tape it up here so that I know that it stays out of my way and doesn't get caught anywhere else. So I'm gonna do a little tape here and another little piece up here. Make sure I have that. Oh, I am gonna do another piece right here just to make sure it's nice and tight. See, you can see today I feel like I'm very tape happy. I don't think I always am, but today it's a taping kind of day. And let's do one more little piece right there. Okay, so the lining of my bag is taped up and secure. Now we're going to work with the outside part of our bag that's 9 by 7. So again, make sure that you pay special attention to the top and bottom of where your design is oriented, and you're going to want to make sure that your lines are going the right direction, or if you have other directional fabric, that the direction is right, and then you're simply going to flip it over. Now we are going to put it 1/4 inch to the left of the left zipper line, and then again we're going to want to make sure that our horizontal lines or our directional fabric look straight. And then we're going to simply tape it in place quickly. Put a piece right here and a piece right there. And we're gonna put this back on our machine, and we're gonna have one line stitch right here, and then we'll put the batting in. So we have our pieces stitched on. Again, the lining is nicely stitched right here, and I'm gonna keep it taped up. Now what we're gonna do is take our 9 by 7 piece of batting, remove any stray little strings that have gotten on it, and we're going to put it where it lines up exactly with that line that was just stitched. And again, you have plenty. The size we tell you to cut is large enough. Excuse me. Excuse me, you all. Sorry about that. So you're gonna line it up with that line, and we're going to smooth this over, make sure it's smooth, that the batting is all the way up to that line. And then even though it's not a fusible batting this month, I'm gonna give it a little press, and it really does the same principle as a fusible batting. Batting just sort of inherently sticks to stuff, you know? Now again, we're gonna make sure that we still have that blue thread, or the fabric, or the thread color that you want to go with your quilting, and the machine is going to base this down. Then it's gonna do beautiful quilting right here to match this side and to match the back of our bag. And it's gonna do our first outline of the heart for our first applique piece. Look at that. Now the left side of your bag, or the front left of your zipper bag, is perfectly quilted, and we have our first outline of our first applique piece, which is the cute little yellow dotted hearts. So we're gonna put that right in place. You just line it up, easy peasy. Make sure you get it lined up everywhere. And then you just use your iron to iron it into place. And now we're gonna put this back on the arm of our machine, and we're going to change our thread to the yellow golden color, which is 0567, and our machine will do a beautiful buttonhole stitch around that for us. Now you have your perfectly buttonholed hearts on the front. It's time to change our thread on our machine to this lovely green color, which is 1177. So the next 2 steps that we're gonna do, our machine is going to give us an outline of where to put our green band, and then it's going to do the buttonhole stitch. So the first out of those 2 steps is to change to the green thread and allow your machine to do the outline. So you have the green outline of this band. So let's put the band in place. Now, I want to remind you that this little strip is longer than what you need, and that's because we want it to go into the seam allowance. However, you don't want it going into your zipper, right? So you are going to line it up from this rectangle line out here on the right. You can see it lines up with like the main line right here is where you'll line your piece up, because it is going to buttonhole stitch right there for you. So we're going to start with pressing it right here, and then just make sure it stays straight as you go across and iron it into place. And yes, it is longer than you need. It's going into your seam allowance. That's done on purpose. So now again, keep that green thread in place, and your machine will now buttonhole stitch this rectangle. So now your green is perfectly buttonhole stitched, and yes, it does go all the way around to make that perfect rectangle because we wanted that nice buttonhole stitch on this side, and I wanted to avoid you having to knot off for no reason at the end of these. So I just went on and did the whole thing, even though this bit right here is going to be caught in your seam allowance, whether or not you finish it in the hoop or with binding. So now it's time to change your machine to the pink 1307, and it's going to do an outline of our 2 flowers. Here's the sweet little outlines for our pink flowers, so let's iron those into place. There are 2 pink flowers. You're just going to make sure you get the petals in the right direction and make sure they're lined up perfectly. There we go, and get your little iron over here. There you go. So one's ironed in. Let's get this second one ironed into place. And once you get it into place, it fits perfectly on all 4 petals. So, there we go. Now let's put that on. And again, we have the pink thread on our machine. The machine is going to do the buttonhole stitch for us here. Look at that, the front of your bag is completely stitched. So now it's time to put the lining in place. So we're going to untape it. You can see I had mine, remember, taped across to the front. Now I'm gonna flip it over. You can see how nice and tidy the inside of our bag is. I love it. If you want to remove the Tearaway stabilizer from within the stitched lines only, you certainly can. I never do, and I have no problems. I use these bags all the time. I absolutely love using these bags, and I give them as gifts all the time, and no one ever has any problems. Now, I will say I don't wash my bags. I don't know if that would affect when you put it in the washing machine. So if you're going to, want to wash your bag a lot, maybe do rip that out. It just depends on what kind of stabilizer you're using. So we're going to simply make sure that there's no little stray threads anywhere. And if you want, you can cut a couple of the strings from your machine. Every now and then it'll have like a longer thread from knotting. You can cut those off if you want. And we're going to simply finger press this down. And again, this is not quilted right here on the inside, but it doesn't matter. It's the inside lining, and I like for it to cover up and protect all of these stitches. So there we go. We're going to tape that in place. There we go. And now what we want to make sure to do is change the thread on our machine back to the color that we used to quilt our machine. So in my case, it's the blue color. And we're going to do that because this very next step is going to secure this in place. All right, so put this back on, change your thread, and now the next step is going to be to decide how you want to finish your bag. Now the front of your bag is completely finished with the exception of the buttons. So let's sew our 2 buttons on, and then we're going to trim down and talk about how we finish it in the hoop or not in the hoop. So with the 2 little buttons that came in your kit, or the buttons you decide to put on there, let's get those out of their little bag. I have my little jar where I can keep them handy. So I'm going to grab one. Now on the mug rug, I used yellow thread to do this. So I had a yellow accent with my white button. This time I'm going to use pink. I just think that seems fun. Now you want to, if you're going to finish your mug rug, your zipper bag in the hoop of your machine, do not take the front out of the hoop. You want to leave it. So you're going to be really careful when you put your buttons on. So I am going to, I know this doesn't look good on the video, but I kind of prop it up like so. Get my needle coming out the center. And we're going to sew 1 button in place. Now if you want, you can always put your buttons on before you do the lining flipped over. But if you're not finishing it in the hoop of your machine, I like the machine to finish that for me. Let's see, I'm getting a little tangled down here. Of course, when I'm filming, I get tangled. And we'll come back through again. So you can see I'm being really careful not to distort the stabilizer in my frame. And I'm only holding where the hoop is. And I'm gonna go down just a few times. Let's go 1 more. There we go. And we'll just knot this off on the back. There we go. So let me do my little knot. And I'm just using my pink thread that I used in the embroidery machine. It's that Sulky 40 weight rayon. If you want to switch to like a 50 weight cotton thread, you're more than welcome to. And then trim that. I'm not going to trowel because again, this is going to show in the lining, even though technically I'll never see that part when I'm using the bag. And just trim your little tail off after your knot. And let's repeat for the second button. And it's in my little jar, handy dandy for me. So just hold this again. Get my needle coming up through the middle. Almost. There we go. And you can see I'm only holding the outer edges of my hoop. I'm being really careful not to distort the contents of my frame. There we go. And we'll come up again. Where's my needle? There we go. Now on the mug rug, if you watch that tutorial, I added fun little frillies of thread. I'm not going to do that on my zipper bag because I do use my zipper bags a little heavier than I do in terms of the use of my mug rug. Because, you know, this gets tossed inside of other bags. I take it on cruises, on planes. I truly use my zipper bags, and I hope that my friends that I gift them to, I hope they use it just as much. So I do sew my buttons on a little more securely. And we're just going to knot off right here. Ooh, I can get under there. And Mom does a fancy little knot. I'm just doing my little slip knots here. They work just as well. So you knot off how you like to. There we go. And then just trim that. There we go. And again, I just store my needles on the side of my Steady Betty over here. So now let's talk about the two options for finishing it. There is one option where you finish it completely in the hoop, meaning you're going to trim this, put them face together, and then the machine is going to do a Ziploc bag, is going to do a zigzag stitch, and then you'll turn your bag right side out. And you'll have no binding showing on your bag, so you don't have to do any binding. The second option is to unhoop both of them, trim them both right outside of your stitching, put them right, you know, insides together, and do your binding fabric like you would any other bag, which is what we've done on this sample. And if you want to do it that way, you can always add the rickrack that came in the kit. You can add rickrack on either side of the zipper. If you're doing the embroidery machine, I don't recommend adding the rickrack because I just didn't find that the embroidery machine enjoyed stitching on that little rickrack. And I don't really think the sewing machine was too easy to do it either. But if you like that extra rickrack, definitely do it. Mom has tips for doing the rickrack. As you know, I don't like doing binding very much, so I'm going to finish this completely in the hoop of my machine, which means I am going to leave the front of my bag completely hooped. I'm not going to mess with it at all. I am going to set it aside though, because I need to trim this part of the back of the bag. Now I have to find my little ruler. Where did my magic ruler go? Here it is. We are going to trim about 1/4 inch around the square. And I'm doing this so that when I place it in the hoop, I have plenty of room. I won't make a mistake and not have enough fabric for stitching. And I'm gonna make sure that my thread on my machine is the thread that I used for quilting, this blue color, because not that the thread is gonna show, but if you ever do push really hard on the edge and you see any of the stitching, it's gonna be a nice pretty color that matches. And there we go. Boop. And 1/4 inch here. And you can just double check it and make sure it's perfectly square. And it is, so yay. I love that. And now we're going to put this in place. So again, I'm finishing this in the hoop. So the most important thing you're gonna do is pull your zipper in, even if you're not finishing it in the hoop. Make sure you pull that zipper pull in. I'm gonna bring it to about an inch or two, about, well, I guess about 2 inches. Yeah, 2 inches from the bottom line. Let me make sure you can see that. So my zipper pull is open all the way down to here, 2 inches above the bottom. We're gonna make sure that we have the front and back oriented the right way, right? Because this is very directional fabric and we have our heart. So I know that this is the front and back facing the right way. So just do an immediate flip. And then what you're gonna do is line up those 2 squares. So you're gonna have about a 1/4 inch buffer. There we go. Make sure that looks nice and straight. And let's tape this little guy into place. And then the machine, the very last step, is going to do a very nice sturdy zigzag on all 4 sides. There we go. And then your machine, or I'm sorry, then your zipper bag will be all done. So in just a second, I'll show you how I quote unquote birth the bag after it's done. Yay, so your bag is completely done in the hoop. This is what it will look like. So let's take it out, trim it, and birth our bag. So let me move my hoop out of the way over here to my other table. And why do I keep losing my ruler? Here it is. Now what we're gonna do is trim. I trim about 1/8 of an inch outside of the stitched zigzag. So there we go. And then we're gonna do the same thing on this side. There we go. And again, I'm using my Olfa mat on top of my Steady Betty. Don't cut on your Steady Betty. And let's see, I hiccuped a little there. It doesn't matter. And then, see that green piece? See, it's nice and caught in your seam. Same thing if you're doing it by your regular sewing machine and finishing it with binding. That's gonna be in your seam allowance. And then one last edge. So if you finish it in your embroidery machine, it's a little bit smaller than if you do it with binding. I haven't had a problem with it fitting or not fitting stuff. Either way, I like it. And now I just like to do a little trim right here on my, and see, look, to me, I didn't cut that very well. Let's redo that, y'all. I think that looks bigger than it should. So, there we go. See, if you make a mistake and you don't like how you cut, just go back and do it again. No one's gonna know when you see the finished product. And again, just trim those little corners a little bit. Don't cut your blue zigzag at all. That will undo your bag and you will not be happy. Now we're gonna flip it over, and I just take my little scissors and kind of run it down here and pull that out. Oh my goodness, look how nice that tore right there. Now I'm probably gonna have to battle this side. Can't get that lucky. Let's see if I start from the top with the big piece. There we go. Get all your little stabilizer out. There you go. And now it's time to birth the bag. This is why you had it unzipped, right? First, I just love this lining fabric so much. What else can I do with it? I want more of it. Can't remember the line of fabric right now. I think it's called Simply Happy. It's a Riley Blake fabric. It's super, super cute. Alrighty. And birth this. There we go. Okay, and now, of course I don't have a little poker tool with me over here. Let me grab a pen. You can use a nice little tool for this, but I'm just using, look what I'm using, a pen. I'm using the end of it, obviously closed. And you're just gonna poke those corners out nicely. Doot, doot, doot. There we go. Let's get this corner. How sweet is this bag? And what the fabric says is so nice. This is a really good gift. I think every month is a good gift. I really love the Easter bunny last month. I mean, how cute was that? The Miss Bunny. She was just adorable. Alrighty, Okay, so just push, push, push. Get that corner looking good. And then you have these two corners to get. So see, this is why they call it birthing the bag. I think that's what they call it. It's what Mom and I call it. I don't know if it's like a scientific sewing term. And get this corner out all the way. There we go. And now I'm going to move my cutting mat because I am going to press this quickly. Now, you have an absolutely perfectly cute bag to use. You can use it as a project bag. You can use it to hold makeup, pens, pencils, anything you need a bag for. This is great. It's also good, can't believe I'm going to say this on a video, but there's nothing taboo about it. If you need toiletries, this is a cute little bag. When we just flew to Europe last month, on the plane, I had one for toiletries to take to the restroom on the plane. And then I had one that had like my threads and stuff for sewing. And then I think we actually had 3 or 4 with us total. So we had all kinds of stuff with us. But it's just handy and just adorable. And I hope you all really, really love this. With your binding fabric that you get in your kit, especially if you didn't use your binding, you can make a really cute zipper pull. Just cut it to length and then fold it in half, fold it in half, fold it in half, and you will have an adorable zipper pull that you can use. Even if you do use your binding, you'll have enough left at the end to make a zipper pull right here. So you have a cute little bit of pink hanging right there. So I hope you all enjoyed this video tutorial. Thank you so much for being a member of the club, and happy stitching!